Yeah, let's watch how Romania defeated communism, chat. Hell yeah.
Life in the world we live in is a complicated thing. There are numerous variables that make our existence truly unpredictable. However, there are three certainties in life that are simply unavoidable: death, paying taxes, and communist governments collapsing.
It has happened a lot. I learned about this in school, so I want to see how he covers it, because I remember about it, and I remember it having something to do with Mikhail Gorbachev. That was a Russian guy. That once he took over, it kind of fell off. I didn't do it, but my grandma was alive during this time, actually. She'll probably be watching this and she'll be like, yeah. Hell yeah.
Romania is a country located on the crossroads of Eastern, Central, and Southern Europe. It has always retained a unique character, as it is a Romance language-speaking country surrounded by Slavs and nomadic horsemen that lost their way on the road to Beijing. And the country and its people have retained this character throughout its history.
I can't control myself.
Milyen történelem? Romániának nincs történelme! As
What the hell?
Saying, as the country has always stood out as a sore thumb, there is no surprise that the fall of communism in Romania differed greatly from its neighboring countries. But to understand what made Romania so unique, when ditching Emily's she-they ideology, we have to go back in time to the mid-20th century. But before we do that, a message from our sponsor, RatePunk. As someone who travels up and have more time to while if makes and no commitment. And once again, it's there to lose. Absolutely nothing, that's what. So go and click in the link in the description and try using RatePunk for your next trip. The story of the fall of Romania's communist regime begins with its rise. In 1944, as the Soviets pushed towards Berlin, they made their way into Romania, liberating the country from fascist rule. By the end of the Second World War,
because I'm pretty sure in the Second World War we kind of picked the wrong side for the first bit of it. I'm pretty sure Romania was on the wrong side for the first 2 years of the Second World War. So that's why then the Russians took over. Oopsies!
The Soviet sphere of influence, and most of the country's ministries were led by communist sympathizers. However, Romania didn't become officially a communist nation until 1947, when the then communist Prime Minister, Georgiu Dej, forced the King of Romania to abdicate.
Oh my god, yes, I remember learning about this. Like, we had this hot young king, and then he was forced to... And I'm pretty sure he died young as well. He's like one of the few hot people we have in our history, man. And he got taken over by the communists, man. Because, yeah, we had a king at that point. Wait, he's still alive? Never mind, I don't know shit. I thought his son was alive. No?
The Romanian People's Republic. The early days of communist Romania were mostly characterized by collectivization, political and religious persecution, and the thing leftists do best, infighting. During this time period, the infamous secret police force, the Securitate, was founded, who were tasked with ensuring the security of the Republic against internal and external enemies, which, as you can imagine, resulted in many people being locked up in forced labor camps, being deported, resettled, or just plainly executed. Generally, the government under George
He died in 2017? Oh man, so he's not had anymore by any stretch of the imaginations. Fuck! I thought he died young, so that means he was gonna be remembered hot. Man.
Differed much compared to the other communist governments. However, things changed in 1965, after Georgiu kicked the bucket. Upon the Prime Minister's death, he was superseded by previously irrelevant party official, Nicolae Ceaușescu.
Represent! Child, I remember taking an Uber to get to the train station, and the Uber driver started telling me how it was way better during Ceaușescu, and it's like, yeah, I missed it the old times. He was, you know, we were getting stuff built. I mean, it's not a lie. We did get a lot of stuff in Romania got built during communism, but at the cost of a lot of human suffering. But a lot of stuff did get built. Like, our entire metro system was built during communism. And then afterwards, it took like 30 more years to make one more line to it.
Party's rank. Under Ceaușescu, Romania started to take a different turn. The country became more open for economic collaboration with capitalist states, and Western media was allowed
If
to be
dude
broadcast.
likes communism, he should immigrate to China or Russia. He's been dead for over 50 years. I think you're good. I think we're good. I think we're good, man. He's been dead for a while.
Within the country, albeit heavily censored, as Ceaușescu put in motion programs of de-Russification in the effort to distance the country from USSR influence. Although on paper Ceaușescu secured Western
And also, Russia's not even communist right now. I'm pretty sure Russia's pretty capitalist right now. I was talking about the gun user. Oh.
And new foreign
Neither is
investments,
China.
the situation for the average Romanian
I don't know if
citizen
there's any
was less than ideal.
fully communist countries existing.
Hogy volt a hétköznapja?
Pe vremea lui Ceaușescu, că nu mi-aveau bani. Nu, mâncare unii găseai, nu găseai absolut deloc, dar găseai foarte greu.
In the 60s, because of a declining birth rate, the government decided to outlaw abortions and birth control in an effort to boost natality within the country. Although the plan was successful in achieving what it aimed for, many children that were born during this time were abandoned by their parents and put into orphanages. Many
Yeah,
of
that
which
never
were
goes well.
underfunded and lacked capacity to take care of so many children. Thus, many were forced to live on the streets with no one to take care of them. Alongside that, many women died as a result of getting
Don't
illegal
write
abortion
epic with 4
procedures
exclamation
done.
marks.
During this time, minorities within Romania were also subject to discrimination. Under the Ceaușescu government, many Germans were forcibly deported from their homes in Transylvania to Germany. Alongside this, Hungarian majority towns and cities received an influx of ethnic Romanians from the countryside,
Bruh.
who were forcibly moved to the cities in an effort to sway the demographic picture of the country. However, arguably one of the worst policies of the Ceaușescu era was the forced industrialization policy. Throughout the 50s and 80s,
Again, it got stuff built. It got stuff built, but it also destroyed a lot of heritage stuff, like old churches and stuff. A lot of it didn't survive this. That's the bad part of it. They destroyed a lot of the old stuff.
Romania's economy on paper was growing, and even superseded many Western European economies, such as Spain's and Portugal's, which, let's be fair, isn't that hard to do. However, most of this growth was forced as resources were artificially pumped into the industrial sector, taking away from the people. Although Romania was generating a surplus of energy resources,
queen?
such as petroleum and electricity, much of it was being exported out of the country. Alongside
Yeah, like
food
they were selling it, but in the country they didn't really have it. Yeah. Are we learning about Romania? Yeah, this is how Romania defeated communism.
industrialized consumer products. So much so that the people of Romania were forced to ration resources.
Yeah, I remember my grandma told me they would just like go in a line like every week. They would just stand in a super long line to get like a bag of flour and stuff like that. Where were you doing this? I was unborn. Yeah, the bread lines. Yeah, the bread line. Oh, you all know about the bread line. Yes, the bread line. Hell yeah. We had that in fascist Italy too. Well, that just stands to show it doesn't matter which end of the political spectrum, totalitarian regimes are not good. I don't even know if that's the right word. Hell yeah.
O noapte întreagă, ca dimineața să dea niște oase sau pește sau ce e. Altceva, restul, untul, laptele, brânza, toate erau pe rație. Ouăle.
Yeah, rations.
Bonuri care trebuia să duci să iei 25 de grame de ouă și
Buses within the country were forced to use methane as a fuel source, because of which they received the title of bombs.
Mai bine rămânem în casă astăzi.
Ți-e frică?
Tot ce trebuie să știi.
Electricity was mainly diverted to the heavy
was the
industrial
Romanian
sector to the
version.
extent that only 1 in 5 streetlights was kept on. TV only broadcasted one channel for just 2 hours per day.
Yeah,
And at the same time,
I heard about all
Romania
this.
also had a high field crop. Yet, Ceaușescu instated a food rationing program. The country was constantly undergoing a shortage of available goods, with the government promoting guidelines on how to eat nutritiously while reducing calorie intake by 25%. Most of the available food products were export rejects.
They were slave fasting. They were all on Ozempic. Oh my god, they were all doing hot girl summer. Yes. Hold your fast, queen. Don't break your fast. Let's go.
As most of the quality goods were exported abroad in an effort
They were all
to pay
getting
off the national
they were only
debt
getting girl
and
dinner.
increase further industrialization.
Girl dinner for the entire country.
All these policies combined led Romanians to have
I've
the
had
lowest
girl dinner today, chat. AKA, I've had no dinner. I just had my breakfast panini with the yogurt and all that, and then I haven't had anything since.
standard of living in Europe, with the exception of Albania. So you know, things were pretty bad. Throughout the late 80s, anti-communist sentiment was growing throughout the countries. One of the first anti-government protests that emerged within the country happened in 1987 in Brasov, as many workers within the city started to riot.
Yeah, back when people actually protested when stuff was fucked. Nowadays, I feel like governments could do literally anything and no one would protest, aside France. France would protest. But I feel like most people nowadays would just not protest, like the worst stuff. Because I feel like there's some really bad stuff that's happening and people are not protesting it, you know? But the French do that got down.
2 years later, another protest emerged within Cluj, as a slew of university students took to
Like,
the
for
streets.
example, in Romania, they're like cutting the pensions down. Like, I know about this stuff from my grandma, right? And she's always saying how they should start protesting. I've talked to her a bunch of times about this, about like the way, like, she keeps saying like everyone's it's like they should start protesting. I'm like, yeah, but like no one's organizing anymore. No one's doing that stuff anymore. Unless they're friends.
Demanding reform from the Ceaușescus. Both of these protests were shut down, and the protesters were arrested and beaten by the police, alongside their families being
The
threatened.
pensioners are so old. Well, it's not only that. The thing is, I feel like also cost of living in Romania, like the prices of gas and electricity, I also know from her, have tripled. Like, genuinely, just the prices went so insane. Oh, actually, this Romanian flag with the hole in it has a nice lore. I know this because, like, my other grandma used to have one of these in her attic. Because apparently there was, like, they put, like, a communist badge in the middle of the flag, so protesters would cut it out. And they would just have this radical, sick-ass Romanian flag with a hole in it, which is like a protest symbol. It was kind of cool.
Să cântăm de statute române. Eu le-am zis, apoi ăștia fiind cu armele îndreptate către noi, alții împușcați tot lângă noi la 50 de metri distanță, m-au luat în vizor, rău de tot, pe mine. Și când au venit cu tunurile de apă și au început să tragă, atunci pe mine au reușit de opris. M-au prins și m-au rănit foarte grav. Adică a jucat fotbal cu mine, a băgat. Băi, am uitat. M-au bătut de nici mai știu cum mă cheamă, numai că nu-mi spaficatul, în schimb a băgat baioneta în mine.
However, the revolution officially began on December 16th, 1989, in the third biggest city in Romania, Timișoara. The day seemed as if it was going to be like any other, except
I had to
there was
learn
one
that date. 1989. I had to learn it for school.
irregularity within the town. A group of people was congregating, forming a human shield around one ordinary-looking building block. Within the building, surrounded
Thank you for the follow.
by the people, lived Laszlo Tőkés, a Hungarian pastor. Over the past couple of years, Tőkés was speaking out against the program of systematization, where the Ceaușescu government deemed many rural towns and villages as irrational and would demolish them and forcibly move the population to bigger cities. Many
Irrational?
of these towns were home to many
I'm
historic
sorry, but your town is irrational. So, oopsies, we're gonna have to like, you know, we're just gonna have to like, sorry, saws.
historically and culturally important churches and buildings, as well as the majority of the villages listed were populated by Romania's minorities. Thus, Tőkés was an avid oppositionary of the program and often addressed it in his sermons, and spoke about it in the Hungarian press. As you can imagine, the government wasn't too happy about this and ordered Tőkés to be deported into the countryside. However, the pastor refused, and many of his supporters came to his rescue and stood outside of his building to protect him from government attempts to forcibly remove Ceaușescu. As the Romanian government increased its effort in getting hold of the pastor, the crowd outside of his apartment grew as many passersby started joining the gathering. The mayor of Timișoara tried de-escalating the situation by saying that he will overturn the decision of Ceaușescu's deportation. However, after failing to provide proof that he has done so, the crowd started to chant anti-communist slogans and spread throughout the city. The police were deployed and suppressed the protesters using tear gas and water cannons. However, the next day the riot continued. The number of protesters on the street of Timișoara was too great for the police to handle. Thus, the military was deployed to deal with the issue.
Yeah. The riots!
Unde, pe la, după vreo 5-6 ore, m-au anchetat. Când au văzut că strige sânge, că nu mai pot să stau în picioare, în 21-22 noaptea la 12 decembrie 89, m-a aruncat afară, ca pe un câine.
Suddenly, the streets of the city were plunged into chaos as bullets flew down the avenues and cars became lit up like Boy Scout
Imagine how
bonfires.
happy would have been to be there, and then the riots worked. And then, you know, everything changes and it's like, how hype would that be? You'd be like, yo! Opinion on the rum chocolate is actually bad. I don't like it. I don't like the thing inside of it. But yeah, no, just...
On
would be
December
cool.
18th, the atmosphere within the city was dense, as soldiers and Securitate agents populated the Unrest Square. The city was under martial law, and curfew was in place, prohibiting anyone to go out in groups of larger than 2. However, despite this, a group of young men headed for the Orthodox Cathedral on the square, where they stood up and waved the Romanian flag, from which they had cut out the communist coat of arms,
Yeah.
while also singing patriotic songs.
The whole
Upon
flag.
the soldiers seeing this, they opened fire on the men, killing some and injuring others. The next day, workers en masse boycotted going to work and congregated at the main square in Timișoara, numbering in over 100,000, where they continued to chant anti-government slogans. The government, already starting to panic, sent out a delegation to try and calm down the situation and try and meet some of their
Yeah,
demands,
try
such
to
as
calm down
freeing
all
the
you want,
previously
man.
arrested protesters. On December 20th, with the protests continuing to grow in power, the Ceaușescu government employed groups of workers from Romania to go and fight the protesters in Timișoara, providing them with weapons and instructing them to retrieve order into the
Scabs!
city. However, upon reaching the town, the Oltenian workers decided to join the crowd.
No
The same day,
scabs!
Ceaușescu gave
Let's go! Reverse scabs! Epic! Reverse scabs. Hell yeah.
a speech on national TV condemning the events at Timișoara and calling it the effects of external aggression. The next morning, Ceaușescu decided to hold a public gathering within the capital of Romania, Bucharest,
Yeah, they sit him
to
back
give
up.
off the image that the country still vastly supports him. The government deployed thousands of workers from the city into the main square and provided them with red flags and pictures of the dictator. As
Oh my
Ceaușescu came up
god, they made him do a positive protest to be like, see, people in Bucharest love us. They love us. See, they love us.
to the stage and started giving his speech condemning the happenings in Timișoara, expecting the crowd to cheer. Most of them stood silent with blank stares, until all of a sudden, a couple people started to boo. And then a
That's
couple
metal
more,
as hell.
and more.
That is
And
so
suddenly,
metal.
a giant crowd of
Literally,
people
they
were
pay these guys to gather to like gas him up. That's so metal. That's actually metal.
booing the dictator of the communist country right in front of him, even chanting Timișoara. In a panic, he tried telling them that he was going to raise all the wages.
Retribuția minimă de la 2000 la 2200 lei.
Bro really said, please, I'll pay you more. I'll pay you more.
Just grew louder. In the midst of the commotion, several loud explosions started to be heard, and soon after, gunshots. The Securitate opened fire on the crowd and chaos quickly started to unfold as the entire event was being broadcast on national television. More and more people started to come out onto the
It's
streets.
nice to see the
and
power of the people actually work. You know, and this is the only power that the working class has. Just get out in the streets and just don't do shit. But like, again, I feel like most people now are like, oh no, but I gotta do my job. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna let eggs become $50. It's fine. I'll pay $50 for eggs so that Big Ed can earn more money. It's fine.
Enough, a riot erupted right on the streets of Bucharest. As the capital plunged into chaos, the military took to the streets and suddenly the avenues were flooded by tanks and armored vehicles shooting at the unarmed rioters. The fighting continued well into midnight when the situation finally calmed down once more. On December 22nd, just as the sun started to rise, the protesters once more started flooding the streets. Again, the government proclaimed martial law and instituted a curfew, but to no avail. In a last-ditch effort, Ceaușescu came out of the balcony.
Please go to sleep. There's a curfew, please. Even a pretzel became 2 or 3 leu. Dude, I'm telling you, I've been to Romania last summer. The prices in there are equivalent to the prices in the UK. But you guys are not earning UK wages. But you're paying UK prices, which is insane. You know, it's like, it doesn't seem sustainable to me to live in Romania right now as like a minimum wage person.
Communist Party's headquarters building and tried addressing the people, but he was only met with disapproval and angry shouts. As the crowd started to become more and more unhinged, they were able to break into the headquarters and overpower the guards and make their way up to the balcony. But just before they could reach it, a helicopter came from out of the sky and scooped up Ceaușescu and his wife Elena. As the couple headed away from Bucharest, they received a transmission via the helicopter's radio. It was the National Army.
Cowards!
And they demanded that they land lest they be shot down. Thus, afraid for his life, the pilot of the vehicle landed them in a field near the town of Pitești. In a panic, the couple managed to secure a car and drive off to a nearby agricultural center.
Oh my god, they're on the run!
But a couple of hours later, the two were discovered and arrested by the local police and taken away to a nearby military garrison where they would await their trial. 3 days later, on the 25th of December, Ceaușescu and Elena went to trial within the Extraordinary Military Tribunal. The couple were facing charges of genocide, subversion of state power, offense of destruction of public property, undermining the national economy, and trying to flee the country with misappropriation.
I mean, all in all, couple goals. They were together through all of it. And if that's not sweet, then I don't know what is.
Funds. The two were facing the death penalty right
Could
in
go
the
wish
eyes.
they heard that in a Dracula show. Because this is Romania, and vampires are from Romania, so they're from Transylvania. And Târgoviște is a Romanian city. That's crazy. It's about my country, yeah.
However, despite this, they were provided with legal counsel. Their lawyer, seeing no possible way of defending his clients, suggested they pleaded as mentally insane to at least avoid the ultimate
That's crazy. Bro said, just say you're crazy.
penalty. However, Ceaușescu found a mere suggestion utterly insulting and dismissed him. During the trial, that lasted around 1 hour, they argued that the tribunal itself was unconstitutional and that the entire thing was an organized coup d'etat by the Soviets. During the trial, the couple's lawyer abandoned them and joined the prosecution's side and started listing their crimes alongside them. All in all, the entire procedure was a mess. There was no criminal investigation prior to the trial, the accusation of genocide was never proven, there was no file of evidence presented to the court, and no financial accounts were found with misappropriated funds. Ultimately, the two were found guilty and sentenced with the death penalty, which was to be carried out 10 minutes after the verdict, which
That's
also
crazy.
was prohibited against the law.
That's crazy. They were like, 10 minutes. We're not waiting anymore. 10 minutes and you're dead.
As all death penalties had to be done minimum 10 days after the verdict, and although the Ceaușescus were entitled to an appeal, neither of them received it. In the end, both were executed so quickly that the media couldn't even televise the event. Over the next couple of days, fighting within the country continued.
They were
despite
pissed.
Ceaușescu's
They were like, we're
death.
not waiting.
It is estimated that anywhere between 1,000 to 7,000 people fell as casualties throughout the revolution. Eventually, things calmed down as Ion Iliescu took office. What's interesting about the revolution, even though it was successful at bringing down Ceaușescu, most of the communist leadership continued to be in power.
Yeah.
The Communist Party that had
Now you
ruled
see, that's
Romania
the
up to
bad
this
part.
point renamed and rebranded themselves into several other parties, and thus the end of an era finally came to Romania.
I don't know how I feel. I feel so free, so happy, so hopeful, especially. Huge hopes I have.
And yeah, that would be the Romanian Revolution.
This was
A
1989.
revolution that took down one of the most infamous dictators in world history and freed Romania from the evil clutches of communism.
I don't want to see something like that in all my life.
It's
I hope
crazy
you guys learned
because
something from it.
they were definitely dictators. Him and his wife, right? But it was as well as the whole, like, all the people in the Senate were just as guilty. And it's crazy how people can just so get sidetracked by one figurehead. Because I bet the rest of people kind of sacrificed those two. They were like, yes, we're going to sacrifice you guys. And then the rest of us are going to continue our jobs. We're just going to rebrand.